Hi, I'm Bongolas, back again with another content for my channel, audio or video. Well, you have to guess this time, or maybe both. I guess the name of the book you have guessed now. By now, it's Odyssey by Homer. Now, it's not possible for me to get the authentic version because the authentic version will be in Greek and or some other ancient language, Latin or something, which I'll not be able to understand. So I bought a version from Book Fair which was available in my area, in my country, and so it has been translated into English by Samuel Buttles, and it's an abridged version. However, it's very close to the, as they said, as the people there suggested me, it's very close to the original writing. So without much further ado, let's dive in. Odyssey. The celebrated epic is the story of a hero's tragic fall and his glorious redemption. Different gods played crucial role both behind his fall and his rise. Odyssey starts from a point of time where the Iliad ends. Odysseus left for Troy to fight the Trojan War when his son Telemachus was just born. The war lasted for 10 years and Odysseus lost another 10 years thanks to Poseidon, the god of the sea, who brought in every sort of difficulty to Odysseus, punishing him, even those who helped the great king of Ithaca. Then Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare, decided to play her role to salvage Odysseus. Disguised as the Taphian chieftain named Mentis, she visited Telemachus to urge him to search for his father. By then, rumors of death of the king had reached the shores of his kingdom. Suitors wanting to marry Queen Penelope and having no intention of caring for Telemachus crowded a hall in the palace, each one of them eyeing to amass Odysseus' fortune and become the next king of Ithaca. Young Telemachus stood powerless to defend his mother or his father's name. He offers Athena, disguised as Mentis, hospitality. Now came a bard with his ballad that spoke of the return of the king of Troy. Penelope objected to the theme, for it reminded her of her husband. At this point, Telemachus assumed the role of the master of the family and asked the bard to complete his ballad, and then risked his life to find out his father. What happened next is a gripping tale of justice and retribution. Odyssey is a sequel to Iliad, but not limited to that only. It uses a more complex plot, includes character from lower social strata, and almost like a folklore, uses mythological creatures and occurrences like in a fairy tale. Here an angry god turns humans into pigs to penalize them for helping Odysseus. Those human-turned pigs, however, do not lose their human brain. In the book, the concept of Nostos, a hero's return to home, plays the most crucial role. The book follows a non-linear plot and is different from Iliad in certain aspects. It opens in medias res, that is, in the middle of the overall story, and describes the events of the past in flashback. As a style of writing, it has fascinated authors for ages. This tradition of storytelling existed even before writing of this epic and was continued through oral traditions. Omens play an important role in the book. Various omens occur frequently throughout the Odyssey and they mostly involve beds. Odyssey, attributed to Homer, was composed near the ends of the 8th century BC, somewhere in Ionia, the Greek coastal region of Anatolia. Almost all modern editions and translations of the Odyssey are divided into 24 books. This division is convenient, but it may not be original. It is said that a sequel of Odyssey, not by Homer, existed in the good old days. The lost sequel was called Telegony. Okay, so a brief summary that I thought that I should provide my listeners if they are about for a quick reading or some inspiration before reading the book or watching the movie. So the book has been divided into 24 parts and there are 3 acts, each act covering the first act, which is the Telemachy, that covers from book 1 to 4, and the second act covers books 5 to 12, and the third act covers 13 to 24. The first act is known as the Telemachy, as I told you, and from the first act I read book 1 on the video, where Athena inspires the prince in Olympus. Athena convinces Telemachus that his father Ulysses is alive, and to get rid of all the extravagance and all the draining out of resources that the guests were imposing upon them, and to go in search of their father, which Telemachus readily agreed to, and we can see him preparing or thinking at night doing that. And in book 2 we will find that Telemachus calls an assembly where he denounces the unruly suitors plaguing his household, but receives no help from the elders. He secures a ship and departs in secret. In book 3 we find that King Nestor and Pylos named, where Telemachus arrives in Pylos and questions King Nestor about Odysseus, as Minerva had told him to do. And Nestor recounts the fall of Troy and the returning of the Greek heroes. In book 4 we'll find that Menelaus and Helen in Sparta, it's named, and Telemachus will see journeys to Sparta, where Menelaus tells him that Odysseus is being held captive on the island of Ogygia by the nymph Calypso. So then we move on to Act 2, where the Wanderings of Odysseus, it's called, and which covers book 5 to 12. And in book 5, which is titled Calypso and the Raft, Athena urges Zeus to send Hermes to Calypso, ordering her to release Odysseus. Odysseus builds a raft, but the sea god Poseidon destroys it. He washes ashore on the island of Phaeacia. In book 6, titled Princess Nausicaa, Phaeacian Princess Nausicaa finds a naked, battered Odysseus on the shore, clothes him and leads him to the palace. In book 7, which is named Palace of Alcinous, where we find that Odysseus is welcomed warmly by the Phaeacian king Alcinous and Queen Hecuba, who offer to transport him home. In book 8, which is entitled Phaeacian Games and Songs, during a banquet a bard sings of the Trojan War, bringing Odysseus to tears. Moved, the king asks him to reveal his true identity. In book 9, titled Cyclops Polyphemus, Odysseus reveals who he is and recounts his adventures. After a raid on the Cyclones, he and his men are trapped by the Cyclops Polyphemus. Odysseus blinds the monster, invoking Poseidon's eternal wrath. In book 10, which is titled Circe and the Underworld, the crew reaches the island of Aeolus, who gives them a bag of winds, but the crew foolishly opens it. They escape the Laestrygons and reach the enchantress Circe, who turns some of Odysseus' men into pigs. After a year, Circe directs Odysseus to visit the underworld to speak with the blind prophet Tiresias. Book 11, which is titled The Land of the Dead, Odysseus travels to the underworld, where he meets the spirit of the dead, including his mother Antisclea, Agamemnon, and Tiresias, who gives him instructions on how to return home. Book 12, titled Scylla, Charybdis, and the Cattle of Helios. Returning to Circe, Odysseus is warned about the sirens, Scylla and Charybdis. He navigates past them, but his men later eat the sacred cattle of the sun god Helios, causing Zeus to destroy their ship. Only Odysseus survives, drifting to Calypso's island. Act 3, which is named Homecoming in Ithaca, and covers books 13 to 14. Book 13, which is titled Odysseus lands in Ithaca. The Phaeacians transport Odysseus to Ithaca, where while he sleeps, Athena disguises him as an old beggar so he can plot his revenge against the suitors without being recognized. Book 14, Eumaeus and Swineherd, Odysseus, still disguised as a beggar, seeks out the loyal swineherd Eumaeus, who warmly hosts him and discusses the current state of the affairs. Book 15, Telemachus Returns. Athena guides Telemachus safely home. He meets with Eumaeus, and the two young men are introduced. Book 16, titled Father and Son Revealed. Telemachus sends Eumaeus to tell Penelope of his return. Athena removes Odysseus' disguise to his son. They weep and plot the destruction of the suitors. Book 17, Beggar in the Palace. Odysseus returns to his palace as a beggar. He is abused by the suitors, but recognizes his faithful dying dog Argus. Book 18, The Beggar King. A local vagabond challenges Odysseus to a fight which Odysseus easily wins. Penelope appears before the suitors, tricking them into giving her lavish gifts. Book 19, Penelope and the Beggar. Odysseus speaks to Penelope about his wanderings without revealing his identity. While washing his feet, his old nurse, Euryclea, recognizes him by his childhood scar. Book 20, Prelude to the Slaughter. Restless and but assured by omens, Odysseus and Telemachus gather weapons. The suitors continue to mock Odysseus, pushing him towards retaliation. Book 21, The Contest of the Bow. Penelope announces a contest. Whoever can string Odysseus' great bow and shoot an arrow through the 12 axe heads will be her husband. Only Odysseus, still disguised, succeeds. Book 22, Slaughter of the Suitors. Odysseus reveals himself, drops his disguise, and along with Telemachus slaughters the suitors. Book 23, Penelope's Recognition. Euryclea tells Penelope that Odysseus has returned, but she is skeptical. To test him, she mentions moving their marriage bed. Something Odysseus knows is impossible because it was built into a living olive tree. Satisfied by his detailed response, she embraces him. Book 24, titled Peace Restored. The souls of the suitors are guided to the underworld. Odysseus visits his father Laertes. The relatives of the slain suitors arrive for revenge, but Athena intervenes and forces both sides to make a lasting peace. So this is Bangola signing off. Hope you liked Odyssey, and do let me know down below in the comments if you want me to read all the parts in details, in video or in audio, in whichever way. So I will do it. And till then, keep liking my post, keep vibing, and be happy. Ciao. So now we proceed to book 1. Tell me, O muse of that ingenious hero who travelled far and wide after he had sacked the famous town of Troy. Many cities did he visit, and many were the nations with whose manners and customs he was acquainted. Moreover, he suffered much by sea while trying to save his own life and bring his men safely home. But do what he might, he could not save his men, for they perished through their own sheer folly in eating the cat's tail of the sun god Hyperion. So the god prevented them from ever reaching home. Tell me too about all these things, O daughter of Jove, from whatsoever source you may know them. So now all who escaped death in the battle or by shipwreck had got safely home, except Ulysses. And he, though he was longing to return to his wife and country, was detained by the goddess Calypso, who had got him into a large cave and wanted to marry him. But as years went by, there came a time when the gods settled that he should go back to Ithaca. Even then, however, when he was among his own people, his troubles were not yet over. Nevertheless, all the gods had now begun to pity him except Neptune, who still persecuted him without ceasing and would not let him get home. Now Neptune had gone off to the Ethiopians, who are at the world's end, and lie in two halves, the one looking west and the other looking east. He had gone there to accept a heat of him, of sheep and oxen, and was enjoying himself at his festival. But the other gods meet in the house of Olympian Jove, and the sire of gods and men spoke first. At that moment he was thinking 14 Aegisthus, who had been killed by Agamemnon's son Orestes. So he said to the other gods, "See now how men lay blame upon us gods for what is after all nothing but their own folly. Look at Aegisthus. He must needs to make love to Agamemnon's wife unrighteously and then kill Agamemnon, though he knew it would be the death of him. For I sent Mercury to warn him not to do either of these things." Mercury told him this in all good will, but he would not listen, and now he has paid for everything in full. Then Minerva said, "Father, son of Saturn, king of kings, it served Aegisthus right, and so it would anyone else who does as he did. But Aegisthus is neither here nor there. It is for Ulysses that my heart bleeds when I think of his sufferings in that lonely sea-girt island far away. Poor man, for all his friends. It is an island covered with forest in the very middle of the sea, and a goddess lives there, daughter of the magician Atlas, who looks after the bottom of the ocean and carries the great columns that keeps heaven and earth asunder. This daughter of Atlas has got hold of poor unhappy Ulysses and keeps trying by every kind of blandishment to make him forget his home, so that he's tired of life and thinks of nothing but how he may once more see the smoke of his own chimneys. You, sir, take no heed of this, and yet Ulysses was before Troy. Did he not propitiate you with many a burnt sacrifice? Why then should you keep on being so angry with him?" And Chauvet said, "My child, what are you talking about? How can I forget Ulysses, than whom there is no more capable man on earth, nor more liberal in his offerings to the immortal gods that live in heaven? Bear in mind, however, that Neptune is still furious with Ulysses for having blinded an eye of Polyphemus, king of Cyclops. Polyphemus is the son of Neptune by the name of Thusa, daughter to the sea king Phorcys. Therefore, though he will not kill Ulysses outright, he torments him by preventing him from getting home. Still, let us lay our heads together and see how we can help him return. Neptune will then be pacified. For if we are all of a mind, he can hardly stand out against us." And Minerva said, "Father, son of Saturn, king of kings, if then the gods now mean that Ulysses should get home, we should first send Mercury to the Achaean island to tell Calypso that we have made up our minds that he is to return. In the meantime, I will go to Ithaca to put hurt into Ulysses' son Telemachus. I will embolden him to call the Achaeans in assembly and speak out to the suitors of his mother Penelope, who persist in eating up any number of his sheep and oxen. I will also conduct him to Sparta and to Pylos to see if he can hear anything about the return of his dear father, for this will make people speak well of him." So saying, she bound on her glittering golden sandals, imperishable, with which she can fly like the wind over land or sea. She grasped the redoubtable bronze-shot spear, so stout and sturdy and strong, wherewith she quells the ranks of heroes who have displeased her. And down she darted from the topmost summits of Olympus, wherefore forthwith she was in Ithaca. At the gateway of Ulysses' home, disguised as a visitor, Mentis, chief of the Taphians, and she held a bronze spear in her hand. There she found the lordly suitors seated on hides of the oxen which they had killed and eaten, and playing draughts in front of the house. Men servants and pages were bustling about to wait upon them, some mixing wine with water in the mixing bowls, some cleaning down the tables with wet sponges and laying them out again, and some cutting up great quantities of meat. Telemachus saw her long before anyone else did. He was sitting moodily among the suitors, thinking about his brave father and how he would send them flying out of the house if he were to come to his own again and be honored as in the days gone by. Thus brooding, as he sat among them, he caught sight of Minerva, and went straight to the gate, for he was vexed that a stranger should be kept waiting for admittance. He took her right hand in his own, and bade her give him her spear. "Welcome," said he, "to our house. And when you have partaken of food, you shall tell us what you have come for." He led the way as he spoke, and Minerva followed him. When they were within, he took her spear and set it in the spear stand against a strong bearing post, along with the many other spears of his unhappy father. And he conducted her to the richly decorated seat, under which threw a cloth of damask. There was a footstool also for her feet, and he set another seat near her for himself, away from the suitors, that she might not be annoyed while eating by their noise and insolence, and that he might ask her more freely about his father. A maid servant then brought them water in a beautiful golden ewer, and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands, and she drew a clean table beside them. An upper servant brought them bread, and offered them many good things of what there was in the house. The carver fetched them plates of all manners of meats, and set cups of gold by their side, and a manservant brought them wine, and poured it out for them. Then the suitors came in, and took their places on the benches and seats. Forthwith men servants poured water over their hands, maid went round over the bread baskets, pages filled the mixing bowls with wine and water, and they laid their hands upon the good things that were before them. As soon as they had enough to eat and drink, they wanted music and dancing, which are the crowning embellishments of a banquet. So a servant brought a lyre to Eumaeus. Then they compelled to performance to sing to them. As soon as he touched his lyre and began to sing, Telemachus spoke low to Minerva, with his head close to hers, that no man might hear him. "I hope, sir," he said, "that you will not be offended with what I am going to say. Singing comes cheap to those who do not pay for it, and all this is done at the cost of one whose bones lie rotting in some wilderness, or grinding to powder in some surf. If these men were to see my father come back to Ithaca, they would pray for longer legs, rather men a longer purse, for money would not serve them. But he, alas, has fallen on an ill fate, and even when people do sometimes say that he's coming, we no longer heed him. We shall never see him again. And now, sir, tell me true who you are and where you come from. Tell me of your town and parents, what manner of ship you come in, how your crew brought you to Ithaca, and of what nation they declared themselves to be, for you cannot have come by land. Tell me also truly, for I want to know, are you a stranger to this house, or have you been here in my father's time? In the old days we had many visitors, for my father went about much himself." And Minerva answered, "I will tell you truly and particularly all about it. I am Mentis, son of Achilles, and I am the king of Taphians. I have come here with my ship and crew on a voyage to men of a foreign tongue, being bound by Timisa with a cargo of iron, and I shall bring back copper. As for my ship, it lies over yonder of the open country, away from the town, in the harbour Retron, under the wooden mountains Neritum. Our fathers were friends before us, as old Laertus will tell you, if you will go and ask him. They say, however, that he never comes to town now, and lives by himself in the country, faring hardly, with an old woman to look after him and get his dinner for him, when he comes in tired from pottering about his vineyard. They told me your father was at home again, and that was why I came. But it seems the gods are still keeping him back, for he is not dead yet. Not on the mainland. It is more likely he is on some sea-girt island in the mid-ocean, or a prisoner among savages who are detaining him. against his will. I am no prophet, and know very little about omens, but I speak as it is borne in upon me from heaven, and assure you that he will not be away much longer. For he is a man of such resource that even though he were in chains of iron, he would find some means of getting home again. But tell me true, can Ulysses really have such a fine-looking fellow for a son? You are indeed wonderfully like him, about the head and eyes, for we were close friends before he set sail for Troy, where the flower of all Argives went into. Since that time, we have neither of us seen each other. My mother, answered Telemachus, tells me I am the son to Ulysses, but it is wise child that knows his our father. Would that I were son to one who had grown old upon his own estates, for since you ask me, there is no more ill-starred man under heaven than he who they tell me is my father. And Minerva said, there is no fear of your race dying out yet, while Penelope has such a fine son as you are. But tell me, and tell me true, what is the meaning of all this feasting? And who are these people? What is this all about? Have you some banquet? Or is there a wedding in the family? For no one seems to be bringing any provisions of his own, and the guests, how atrociously they are behaving. What riot they make over the whole house. It is enough to disgust any respectable person who comes near them. Sir, said Telemachus, as regards your question, so long as my father was here, it was well with us and with the house, but the gods in their displeasure have willed it otherwise, and have hidden him away more closely than mortal man was ever yet hidden. I could have borne it better, even though he were dead, if he had fallen with his men before Troy, or had died with friends around him, when the days of his fighting were done. For then the Achaeans would have built a mound over his ashes, and I should myself have been heir to his renown. But now the storm winds have spirited him away, we know not whither. He is gone without leaving so much as a trace behind him, and I inherit nothing but dismay. Nor does the matter end simply with grief for the loss of my father. Heaven has laid sorrows upon me of yet another kind, for the chiefs from all our islands, Dulichium, Same, and the woodland islands of Zakynthus, as also all the principal men of Ithaca itself, are eating up my house under the pretext of paying their court to my mother, who will neither point blank say that she will not marry, nor yet bring matters to an end. So they are making havoc of my estate, and before long will do so with myself. Is that so? Exclaimed Minerva. Then you do not indeed want Ulysses home again. Give him his helmet, shield, and a couple lances, and if he is the man, in was when I first knew him, in our house, drinking and making merry, he would soon lay his hands about this rascally suitors, were he to stand once more upon his own threshold. He was then coming from Ephyra, when he has been to beg poison for his arrows from Aeus, son of Marmarus. Aeus feared the ever-living gods and would not give him any, but my father let him have some, for he was very fond of him. If Ulysses is the man he then was, then the suitors will have a short shrift and a sorry wedding. But there it rests with the heaven to determine whether he is to return and take his revenge in his own house or no. I would, however, urge you to set about trying to get rid of the suitors at once. Take my advice. Call the Achaean heroes in assembly tomorrow. Lay your case before them and call heaven to bear your witness. Bid the suitors take themselves off, each to his own place. And if your mother's mind is set on marrying again, let her go back to her father, who will find her a husband and provide her with all the marriage gifts that so dear a daughter may expect. As for yourself, let me prevail upon you to take the best ship you can get with a crew of 20 men and go in quest of your father, who has so long been missing. Someone may tell you something, or, and the people often hear things in his way, some heaven-sent message may direct you. First go to Pylos and ask Nestor. Thence go to Sparta and visit Menelaus, for he got home last of all the Achaeans. If you hear that your father is alive and on his way home, you can put up with the waste the suitors will make for yet another 12 months. If on the other hand you hear of his death, come home at once, celebrate his funeral rites with all due pomp, build a barrow to his memory and make your mother marry again. Then, having done all this, think it well, all over your mind, how, by fair means or foul, you may kill these suitors in your own house. You are too old to plead in fancy any longer. You have not heard how people are singing Orestes' praises for having killed his father's murderer, Aegisthus. You are a fine, smart-looking fellow. Show your mettle, then, and make yourself a name in the story. Now, however, I must go back to my ship and to my crew, who will be impatient if I keep them waiting longer. Think the matter over for yourself, and remember what I have said to you. Sir, answered Telemachus, it has been very kind of you to talk to me in this way, as though I were your own son, and I will do all that you tell me. I know you want to be getting on with your voyage, but stay a little longer, till you have taken a bath and refreshed yourself. I will then give you a present, and you shall go on your way rejoicing. I will give you one of the great beauty and value, a keepsake, such as only dear friends give to another. Minerva answered, do not try to keep me, for I would be on my way at once. As for any present you may be disposed to make me, keep it till I come again, and I will take it home with me. You shall give me a very good one, and I will give you one of no less value in return. With these words she flew away like a bird into the air. But she had given Telemachus courage, and had made him think more than ever about his father. He felt the change, wondered at it, and knew that the stranger had been a god. So he went straight to where the suitors were sitting. Phemius was still singing, and his hearers sat wrapped in silence as he told the sad tale of the return from Troy, and the ills Minerva had laid upon the Achaeans. Penelope, daughter of Icarius, heard his song from her room upstairs and came down by the great staircase, not alone, but attended by 2 of her handmaids. When she reached the suitors, she stood by one of the bearing posts that supported the roof of the cloisters, with a staid maiden on either side of her. She held a veil, moreover, before her face, and was weeping bitterly. Phemius, she cried, you know many another feat of gods and heroes, such as poets love to celebrate. Sing the suitors some one of these, and let them drink their wine in silence. But cease this sad tale, for it breaks my sorrowful heart, and reminds me of my lost husband, whom I mourn ever without ceasing, and whose name was great over all halls and middle Argos. Mother, answered Telemachus, let the bard sing what he has a mind to. Bards do not make the ills, they sing of it. It is Jove, not they, who makes them, and who sends weal or woe upon mankind according to his own good pleasure. This fellow means no harm by singing the ill-fated return of the Danaans, for people always applaud the latest songs most warmly. Make up your mind to it and bear it. Ulysses is not the only man who never came back from Troy, but many another went down as well. Go then within, house and busy yourself with your daily duties, your loom, your distaff, and the ordering of your servants, for speech is man's matter, and mine above all others, for it is I who am master here." She went wandering back into the house and laid her son, saying in her heart. Then going upstairs with her handmaids into her room, she mourned her husband till Minerva shed sweet sleep over her eyes. But Ely, suitors, were clamorous throughout the covered cloisters, and prayed the one that he might be her bedfellow. Then Telemachus spoke. "Shameless," he cried, "and insolent suitors, let us least at our pleasure now, and let there be no brawling. For it is a rare thing to hear a man with such a divine voice as Phemius has. But in the morning meet me in the full assembly that I give you formal notice to, and feast at another's houses. Turn and turn about at your own. If on the other hand you choose to persist in sponging upon one man, heaven help me, but Jove shall reckon with you in full, and when you fall in my father's house, there shall be no man to avenge you." The suitors bit their lips as they heard him, and marveled at the boldness of his speech. Then Antonius, son of Euphatius, said, "The gods seem to have given you lessons in bluster and tall talking. May Jove never grant you to be chief in Ithaca, as your father was before you." Telemachus answered, "Antonius, do not chide with me, but God willing, I will be chief too if I can. In this, the worst fate you can think of for me, it is no bad thing to be a chief, for it brings both riches and honor. Still, now that Ulysses is dead, there are many great men in Ithaca, both old and young, and some other may take the lead among them. Nevertheless, I will be chief in my own house, and will rule those whom Ulysses has won for me." Then Eumaeus, son of Polyphemus, answered, "It rests with the heaven to decide who shall be the chief among us. But you shall be master in your own house, and over your own possessions. No one, while there is a man in Ithaca, shall do you violence nor rob you. And now, my good fellow, I want to know about this stranger. What country does he come from? Of what family is he from? And where is his estate? Has he brought you news about the return of your father, or was he on business of his own?" He seemed a well-to-do man, but he hurried off so suddenly that he has gone in a moment before we can get to know him. "My father is dead and gone," answered Telemachus, "and even if some rumor reaches me, I put no more faith in it now. My mother does indeed sometimes send for a soothsayer and question him, but I give his prophecies no heed. As for the stranger, he was Mentis, son of Achilles, chief of the Taphians, an old friend of my father's, but in his heart he knew that it had been the goddess." The suitors then returned to their singing and dancing until the evening, but when night fell upon their pleasuring, they went home to bed, each in their own abode. Telemachus's room was high up in the tower that looked on to the outer court. Hither then he hied, brooding and full of thought. A good old woman, Euryclea, daughter of Oaks, the son of Pisenor, went before him with a couple of blazing torches. Laertes had brought her with his own money when she was quite young. He gave the worth of 20 oxen lure her, and shewed as much respect to her in his household as he did to his own wedded wife. But he did not take her to his bed, for he feared his wife's resentment. She it was who now lighted Telemachus to his room, and she received him better than any of the other women in the house did, for she had nursed him when he was a baby. He opened the door of his bedroom and sat upon the bed, and he took off his shirt and gave it to the good old woman, who folded it tidily and hung it for him over a peg by the side of his bed. After which she went out, pulled the door to by a silver catch, and drew the bolt home by means of the strap. But Telemachus, as he lay covered with a woolen fleece, kept thinking all night through of his intended voyage, of the counsel that Minerva had given him. Book 1 has ended here. Book 2 starts now. I am not going to read it here, and I am going to add a short summary with this video, which will be in an audio form, and because it's not possible to read so many pages, like it's abridged, but still there are so many pages, it's not possible to read here. Do comment down below if you want to hear me read it part by part, then I can do that, or I can do a summary. If you can hear it for a quick inspiration, so that you get more interested in the book or the movie. The movie is set to be released on 17th, and the book is always there since it's an epic. So ciao for today. This is Bangala signing off. Hope you had fun with me reading the book, and hope you liked it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and yeah, hope you're doing well, my listeners and my viewers. Bye bye.